my question to Sharath is, what are all the steps? Again, like I said, what will happen in the real production? We cannot foresee. Some entirely new things can happen, right? Version problems, environment, software, people using it. Whole lot of things beyond our control is there. But what is it that we do as part of monitoring and maintenance? All right, to ensure that we have as minimum downtime as possible with our application running in the client side. Could you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, thank you, Nitin, for that question. It becomes one of the important questions in nowadays, the current trending scenarios. Um, as you mentioned, downtime. That's a very key, important word, and I want to revolve my answer around that particular word. Whenever we talk about any machine learning solution that we are giving, you have to look at that as a service. Ultimately, you're giving some solution to your customer, and the customer is trying to use that solution. So it's a service. Now, over a period of time, the service should continue behaving as it was behaving when we hand it over to the customer. Now, there will be multiple aspects which can impact the performance of that particular service. For example, customers' business might have grown, right? Now, when you say customer business has grown, the number of footfalls that are visiting to that particular service, let's say we have 10 people using the service when the service was deployed. But probably over a period of time, we might have 100 people or maybe 1,000 people. Is the application as a service capable to support all those requests? Now, when I talk about this, we are looking at hardware capabilities, including network and all those things, right? The retraining would be another aspect, because as the business is growing, new data is coming up. And if you remember, I've already spoken about the data drift. Right? Briefly, I was touching upon the data drift. As I mentioned, today the business is running with 10 end users, for example. Suddenly the business grows and maybe they now have 100 users. So you can see the volume of the data is growing, and the data will also move slowly, but steadily it will move. So what are the differences that we are looking at? Because of this data drift, your performance in the model will also change. So likewise, we will have multiple aspects which impact the performance of the application that we are developing, right? Simply look at this as a service, software service. So from that perspective, we'll have to start thinking. We'll have to prepare a checklist. As we discussed earlier, ML ops standards are something that we'll also have to consider. You need to talk to your deployment team. You need to talk to your operations team, hardware team, software team, right? You consider all the aspects, the 360-degree view of your software. Right from data quality, the size of the data, the integrity of the data, the characteristics of the data from an EDA perspective. When new data is coming, is there any drift? You will have to compare with that. And we have a lot of tools which are, they're wonderful, awesome tools that you can use right now. When we used to work on projects, we had to do all these things manually, but now we have tools which can very simply, right, automate the entire process. One such tool that I've recently worked on is Evidently, right, and it's very easy, super awesome tool. You can just get the entire reports directly, and it clearly tells whether there is any deviation detected, drift detected. So we have to keep all these things continuously mapped. You need to decide on what are the cycles that you are going to revisit for your model training, retraining, I would say. It depends, again, the business requirements, the volume of the data that business is generating, the footfalls, right? Multiple aspects will come into the picture, and you'll have to define the interval. And according to that, you'll have to revisit to your model to ensure that it is retrained. Now, when you're retraining, again, there are multiple aspects. Do you want to retrain it from scratch? Do you want to do it on incremental basis, right? All these things have to be considered, and it has to be continuously validated or continuously monitored to ensure that the accuracies are continuously at the same level. And as I said, we can experiment tools like Evidently to do that.
Thank you, Sharad.